Who'd you hang out with at the festival?
Guys from Santana, mostly, Bay Area guys. We all stuck together. Well, Bill Graham was managing Carlos and the band, and we got there. We didn't have any team other than our road crew, our stage crew, so we were sort of at a loss what to do. And then we ran into Bill Graham's organization, who'd always taken great care of everybody in the Bay Area. Fantastic group of people. And we spent the day barbecuing and drinking beers and, generally having a good time.
What about watching the other acts? Did you get to do that?
Yeah, we occasionally went over the bridge and saw different bands, but there was so much going on that we just sort of took the opportunity to get some rest, because we'd been beating ourselves up all night to get there.
Now, you mentioned Born on the Bayou there at one point. Creedence were never on the Bayou, were you, at the time that album came out?
Wait a minute. There's a river in California that has swamps, the Sacramento River. No, we had never really been to the southern states until after we'd started the Creedence stage of our career. And surprisingly, most people didn't know that. You couldn't tell from the music, could you?
You couldn't, no.
Yeah.
I think it did get documented down the track, didn't it?
Well, yeah, it did. It was straightened out eventually, but that was the kind of music that we liked the most anyhow. That was the blues and rockabilly. Music of the South generally was the music that we gravitated to in our record collections when we were kids.
Yeah. So we caught him out there, huh? And him and Graham Nash, who had never stepped foot in the Southern Hemisphere when he wrote Southern Cross.
Well, there you go. It's it's all in your imagination.
It certainly is.
It's what you read, what you see, what you think, what you dream. It is that other world that where creativity comes from.
Let's talk a bit about the music industry back then. Creedence Clearwater Revival had 2 albums in 1968, 2 albums in 1969, 2 albums in 1970. That would be unheard of today.
Well, let me correct you. I think we had 3 albums in one of those years.
Yeah.
I think in '69 we had 3 albums. No, of course it's unheard of. It made no sense at all to us. John Fogerty had a fear of disappearing. He felt that, and we talked about it often, that if you weren't on the charts, you were gone. And so the idea of continually having singles, we were talking about singles a little earlier today, when we had enough singles together, we'd add some other tracks, and then we'd have an album. So the albums came after the singles, and they sort of were the finish up of a exactly. You'd add 3, 4, 5 more tracks, and you had your A and B sides, and so you had a complete LP. But unfortunately for Creedence, we were right in the middle of a contract dispute with the record company, and Doug Clifford, Creedence's drummer, Cosmo and I were arguing that we should not turn in so much material, so that there was a conflict about how to deal with our career, basically. But now you get 1 album every 3 years from a band, if you're lucky,
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And no one remembers who they are when they release their second album.
So there's always that situation,
Yeah.
because pop music is, by definition, here today, gone tomorrow. Somebody's new. It's new music, continually. You run the risk of being a one-hit artist. True.
Cosmo's Factory, an absolute classic even to this day. You put it on, there is not a dud on that entire album from beginning to end. Tell me about your feeling of going in the studio and recording, that. Did it feel like it was going to become the classic album that it was?
No. To us, we had a totally different approach to our work and the work ethic. We just learned the songs, tried to get them feeling good, and went in and recorded them as fresh as we could. We didn't spend a lot of time going over and over. If it wasn't coming together, we would just move on. And Heard It Through the Grapevine was a surprise. We had been playing some loose versions of a jam who knew what it was. But then when suddenly that jam got put on to I Heard It Through the Grapevine, I think it caught all of us by surprise. I know John hadn't said anything about it, that intention. But that's a good collection of songs. That's, with the exception of the Creedence Chronicle, Volume 1, that was the biggest selling Creedence album.
Yeah. Well, that track in particular, I Heard It Through the Grapevine, and coming from a country that didn't play Motown on the radio in the 60s. I Heard It Through the Grapevine for the very first time as a Creedence Clearwater Revival song.
Amazing.
And the average Australian of my era would still think of it as a Creedence song.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, that's
shocking.
I know, but that's the fact. Sorry, Australian radio did not play black music and Motown music in the 60s.
That's wild. Nowhere, huh?
No.
There's 3 versions. Well, Creedence is the third. There's probably other versions.
Yeah.
The first was Marvin Gaye. The second was Gladys Knight. And they're both killer versions, different, but killer versions. And then along comes Creedence, and I'm going, well, this is the worst of the 3 for, because my heart was always in those other 2 great Motown tracks. But thank you very much. I still play that song to this day.
Yeah. There's, I think, particularly because of that thumping bass line. There was so much of you in that song, wasn't it?
Well, Creedence was a rhythm section band. A great American music business guy, Jim Ed Norman, was president of Warner Brothers Nashville and a good friend. He described Creedence as a vocal with a roar and a backbeat. And so, that works. I think that's helped keep the band popular.
Sure.
To this day, sure.
I think you and Doug were the original drum and bass act, weren't you?
Yeah, we call ourselves pick and shovel workers.
Yeah.
Just down in the trenches, nothing fancy. Don't try and get over your head. Just keep it going.